Masechta Bava basra daf Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. We're starting from 3 lines from the bottom of Kuf Aleph of the Beis. The Gemara now brings another Mishnah that talks about the build of the Midas Hakvura, of those caves that they used for Beis Hakvuras. They had a Chatzer, like we learned on the previous daf, and they had 2 sides in which they had like a room where they put the mason in slots. Then we learned in the Mishnah Eilis Mesachta Eilis Perek Tezayin Mishnah Gimel or Mesachta Nazir on Samach Daled Amud Beis. It says Hameitza, one who found a cave of a mace for the first time. So he says it just the first time it became aware to him. Betchila means it's the first time, and the base was lying like the Yiddish way. It was lying on its back, its face towards Lamaila, its feet spread out, and its 2 hands folded on its chest. So in such a case, so if it was a goyish cave, the halach is for sure you're allowed to remove that cave no matter what, even if you know it was buried there by Eifim Kavua. But if the mace was of a yid, it's forbidden to remove it unless it was a temporary cave. So what would be 2 examples? 2 examples would be if the head was between the feet, or it was the sitting position. Then you're allowed to move it in any way, even without taking the earth around it and moving it, because it's a glaim ladav. It's either a goy, or even if it was a yisol that was buried there, it was only there temporary. They only threw him there for the last minute. Or Lamasha, you find a person that was killed and was cut into pieces. So there, you know for sure it was there, put temporarily. It was thrown like there. It's nikah that it was killed. They didn't place the mace on its bed. So you could say it was there, but without the kavanah to bury it. So then you're allowed to remove it with the earth. And the same thing is the halacha would be, what's the shchunas of what would be considered as a cave of kavod if there were 3 maces l'chatchila there. But if there was only 1 mace there, and that's what he found, then he's allowed to remove it. It's only there temporarily. We won't say it was considered as a kavua. Or even if there was 2 mason, it's not considered as a kavua. And even if there were 2 mason and he's the 3rd mace, but since l'chatchila there was only 2 mason, it's considered as a temporary kfura, and he's allowed to remove it. And of course, we're saying if it was buried in the right way, then the halacha would be that you have to remove it with the sand around it. And this we learn out from the words of Yaakov Avinu in his tzavah, that he's made Yosef promise that he'll bury him in Eretz Canaan. And it says over there, "Sasanim in Mitzrayim, you should carry from Mitzrayim." The word in Mitzrayim was extra. We knew he was buried in Mitzrayim. Of course, he has to be carried from Mitzrayim. From this, we dash in that it means with the karka of Mitzrayim, he should be brought up to Eretz Yisrael. So if you found mushkav abaytzim, if they found that kebishameis mushkav darke, he was lying in the normal way, then then you take the maize vest fusase together with the earth around it and bury him in the eifim kavua. Shnayim, if you found 2 masons that were buried there, nevertheless it's considered temporary. Night vest fusase. Since he only found 1 mason or 2 mason there, and it wasn't even kavua, so you could say that the Beis HaKvaris was only there temporary, and that's why the halacha is that they could take out the maze together with the earth. Matzah shleisha, but what's if you found 3 masons, 1 beside the other? Im yesh b'neihem, if there was between enough space, ma'abat shmeina, from 4 amas till shmeina, arezu shchunas kvaris, then it's considered as a shchuna of kvaris. What does it mean, ma'abat shmeina? So we learned that there was a chatzer in the middle, and there were 2 caves on the side. So in the caves there was the longer wall that was, according to this sheet, of 8 amas, and the shorter wall facing the chatzer was 4 amas. On the 4 amas wall, there were 3 mason. You were allowed to bury 3 mason on 4 amas, because this sheet holds that all you needed, each mace was an amma, and between each mace was 2 tvachim. So you had 3 masons, so you had 4 tvachim between the 3 mason, because between each base you had 2 tvachim, and then on the outsides to the corner of the wall there was a tevach on each side, which made up to 6 tvachim, which made up the 4th amma. Or you could have 6 kvarim on the long of the wall. And how did it turn into 8 amas? Because 6 tvachim comes out, 6 kvarim comes out to 6 amas, and then between each kever you had 2 tvachim, so that's 10. There's 5 spaces between the 6 kvarim, and then you had a tevach on each side, so it was 12. So that's 2 amas. 2 amas plus 6 mason, that made it to 8 amas. Says the Gemara, Areizu shchunas kvaris. So then it's considered as a shchuna of a kvarim. It's considered as a, if the distance was 4, not less than 4, and up to 8 amas, and not more than 8 amas, that makes it into a designated beis hakvaris. And there you wouldn't be able to move out, you wouldn't be able to remove the keva. Says Gemara, once you found 3 kvarim there, then he has a responsibility to look for other kvarim, because the area to make sure it's not tamei. Mimenu, from him, from the place where he finished the 3 kvarim, ulahalon, and further out, esamama, till 20 amas, because we say, look, the 3 kvarim were probably on the smaller wall facing the chatzah, and the chatzah consisted of 2 beis hakvaris. So he was on one side of beis hakvaris. Now he would have to count from the end of these kvarim to all the way past the chatzah to the other side, which was 20 amas, because here he learns it was 8 amas, 6 amas of a chatzah, so that's 8 and 6, and then 8. The Gemara will ask later on, why is it only 20? It's 22. But here, that's how they measured from one end of the one plot of the beis hakvaris, this shorter side, to the other end, over past the chatzah to the other side of where there was another cave with a beis hakvaris. So the 2 ends equal to 20 amas. But really, according to our cheshbon, if the beis hakvaris area was 8, and then the chatzah was 6, and then the next beis hakvaris was 8, that would equal to 22. And the Gemara will ask about it. Says the Gemara, matzah echad b'seifas mama. If he found one at the end of 20 amas, then we have to be afraid. If he found one mamash at the end of 20 amas, then we have to be afraid that's part of a fully different beis hakvaris, and you have to check another 20 amas. Then you have to do Baidik Mimenu Lahalon Esam. If you found one at the end of 20 amas, we have to be afraid that end of the 20 amas belongs to a whole another section of a beis hakvaris with a whole new chatzah, which is connected to another chatzah. So at Bichlal, the Rashbam goes through, and you're going to have to check all sides. The opposite wall of the long wall. You don't know which side to go, to the back or to the front, to the east, to the west. So it was much more than that. But now we're talking about in a straight line. So if you found one at the end of 20 amas, we have to be afraid that it belongs to a whole nother plot with another chatzah with 2 different beis hakvaris. And therefore he has to go another 20 amas. We say Shaglaim Ladava, that this additional caver that he found and in a part of the beis hakvaris maybe belongs to another one, because we're talking about already a designated area of beis hakvaris. But if lechatchila you would have only found one kaver and not the 3 kvarim, then the halacha would be you were allowed to take that kaver out and remove it together and place it elsewhere. If he would have only lechatchila found only one and not the 3, then lechatchila he would have been able to go and move it to another place. But now that he found 3, and now he found also another kaver here, so now that makes him, number 1, it's a kavua, and number 2, he has to now do a check at the end of 20 amas, for wherever it ends. The Tanakh said, that what's the dimensions? 4 to 8. Minimum 4 amas has to be a separation on the smaller wall between and 4 amas. You can have 3 kvarim there. You can have 3 slots. But it has to be a minimum of 4 amas. You cannot have it less than 4 amas. And the whole distance of the width is up to 8. But more than 8 of the 3 kvarim is not going to be considered as a beis hakvaris kavua. In fact, who does this follow? If follows the Rabbanon, the Rabbanon said Abba Amas al Sheish. He says 4 to 6. So if more than 6 already is not considered as a beis hakvaris kavua, and according to this Tana, he says up to 8 is still considered as a beis hakvaris kavua. If it follows Rab Shimon, Sheish al Shmeina, he says 6 by 8, and here we said even by 4 less than 6 is still considered as a base hakodesh kavua if it's on 4 amis. Says you want to learn Rabbi Shimon, he really follows Rabbi Shimon. Right, Tanahu, and there's a machlekes between Tanoim what Rabbi Shimon said, and this follows this Tana who says it was 4 by 6, not 6 by 8. It was 4, not by 6 by 8, but it was 4 by 8. Right, Tana. Who, and this is the Tana that says that Shimon holds it's 4 by 8. The Tana that we learned in the Braisa, Mitzana Tzufim, we found the basin side by side, gekvetched together, right next to each other, and there wasn't even 3 amas between, of a distance between these 3. It wasn't, they weren't placed on even 3 amas. That means it was so packed together. Ames, Achmeina. That means from 4 amas till Shmeina Yeshlam Tfusa. Then the halacha is that they have the din of Tfusa Ve'inlahem Shchunas Kvaris. That meaning that there wasn't B'neim 4 amas to 8. It was less. It was sitting on those 3 kfarim or 3 slots were on less than 4 amas. So then the halacha is that it's considered as a temporary kfura, and you're allowed to take it with the earth around it, and it doesn't have a din as a shchuna of a Beis HaKodesh Kavua. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says in the name of Reb Shimon, he says, when you have them packed together, so whatever is in between that's making it less than the shear, you make it as if it doesn't exist. So you only have the outer one, the middle one, and the other outer one. So then if you have the shear like that, that's fine, and those that are in between, that are squeezed together, we make as if it doesn't exist. He says the 2 mason, the 2 outer mason, together with the middle one, are combined to become shleisha mason hamfuzarim me'aba amas ve'achmeina, from 4 amas till 8, and that makes it into a shchunas kvares, into a Beis HaKodesh Kavua, and therefore each one you look at it is the other ones beside it is not there, and therefore it's a shchunas kvares for each one of them, and you cannot remove any of them. How are we talking about? How do we establish the Mishnah? Like Rabbi Shimon, who says that it's 4 to 8. So, in fact, look in the Sefer. It says, he says you check from the last keva, meaning from the last wall, from the last short wall, and you measure from there 20 amas, be passing this area of the Beis HaKodesh, going over the Chatzah to the next area of the Beis HaKodesh to the last wall, and he counted it as 20 amas. In fact, who did you establish that it's 20 amas? If it follows Rabbi Shimon, it's going to be 22. Why? Because each area, the wall was 8 according to Rabbi Shimon, and then the Chatzah was 6. Rabbi Shimon said, and then you had the next area of the Beis HaKodesh, which was again 8. 8 plus 6 plus 8 is 22. So, and you said he only has to go up to 20 amas. And if it's Rabbanan, the Rabbanan halten tamni srei avyan. It's only 18 amas, because the Rabbanan hold that the 2 midas was 6. The first mida was 6. Then you had the Chatzah, which was again 6. And then you had the next mida area of the next cave, which was again 6. So 3 times 6 is 18. Says the Gemara, he really follows the Rabbanan that it was 6 amas in the length. Okay, going the Badak, and it's talking about they checked out the place, ba'alach soina, on a diagonal, because maybe they're not on a straight line. You might miss one. One might be shorter, one might be longer. So you might not hit on a straight line. You might not find the base of the kvarim. So therefore, they said do it on a diagonal. Once you do it on a diagonal, it's 1.25 more than on a straight line. So once you're adding 1.25, so you round it off. The Rashbam brings down. So you round it off to the bigger number. So you have 21 and 2/4. So we said it's 22. Why are you only measuring on a diagonal in the first place, the first Myra? Say you should have to check on the other Myra also on a diagonal, and if you're going to check on another diagonal, so it'll be more. He says, I'm reading on. So today, so is 1 second. So I asked him if you have to check the first mitre by Allah, so you should have to check the second one. So you find that it's that it was 22. The 2 mitres by Allah was 16. According to Rabban, I'm sorry, it was 18. And by Allah, you rounded it off 1 plus 2 1/4, so it added up to 20. In fact, but that's only checking 1 mitre by Allah, but there were 2 mitres. So the second Allah would also be 1 2/4. So it should be as with Tatavion. Again, the Hub just like the first one, you checked on the diagonal and it brought it from 18 till 20. Check the second mitre also, and Allah should bring it from 20 to 22 now. So we are mechayiv him only to check 1 cave with on a diagonal to be matrichim. We're not matrichim since he didn't find in the first mitre any kvarim shleisha mesim. He didn't find more, so they weren't, after the 3 masons, they weren't machmir on him to also check the second one. It's enough with going with the second one in a straight line. Like Davidi said, really also the Sefer Reb Shimon, he follows Reb Shimon. Who says it's 8 amis, each mitre in the length. So how do you have 20? It should be 22. 8 plus the other mitre is 8, and the 6 was the chutzah, so it should be 22. So over here is talking about nifle, that they buried nephilim, stillborns in it, and it was a much smaller slot. So therefore it added up to 20. In fact, just like the first mitre, you said it was dealing with the stillborns, so the other mitre should also be with stillborns. So just like you went from 22 to 20 because 1 mitre was with stillborns, so say the other mitre was also stillborns, and it should be 18. So it should be, it's equal only to 18. You're allowed to place 1 mitre that should be designated for nephilim, for stillborns. But we don't say that we're going to designate a whole 2 mitres with a chutzah only for nephilim. It's not the derech, he says. Shekein ein derech lasis, the Rashbam says. It's not the derech to make shchunas kvaris shleimus only for nephilim. It's not the derech to do only for nephilim. Before we learned machlokes, when they were all condensed together, so the Rabbanan said, the Abshimon said, so those that are condensed together, so we still consider it as a shchunas kvaris, and those we eliminate as if those that are between the outer ones and the middle ones, we make it as if it's not there, and therefore it's considered as a shchunas beis hakvaros. But the Chachamim say no. So, in fact, we have a stira from the Rabbanan from a different brayso and Reb Shimon and Reb Shimon. We have a stira from the Rabbanan. We have Reb Shimon and Reb Shimon, and we have a stira from Reb Shimon and Reb Shimon. It's not that we learned the Mishnah, but the gate to Klayim. The halacha is that if it's an individual vine, then the halacha is you're allowed to plant seeds within by 6 tvachim. But if it's a vineyard, you're not allowed to plant anything in the vineyard, and 4 amos outside the vineyard, you're not allowed to plant seeds. You have to be 4 amos away from the vineyard. What makes a vineyard considered as a vineyard? That between each shura of vines, there has to be 4 amos for the plow to be able to go around it. But if it's less than 4 amos, it's not considered as a vineyard. So it says we learned in the Mishnah Kerem Hanatu al Pochs Me'abamas that there were shuris that were distant but within 4 amos. It wasn't the 4 amos away to make it a vineyard. Reb Shimon says it's not considered as a kerem because it doesn't have enough, since they're all crowded together and there isn't the 4 amos to be able to go around the vines. Therefore, it's considered as 1 vine. We separate them as if separate vines, and you're allowed to plant within the 6 tvachim, by the 6 tvachim, but not and it doesn't have the din like kedem. You're not allowed to plant at all or outside the kedem of 4 amos. Chachamim say it is a kerem, it is considered as a vineyard. Why? Because we look at the middle ones, that makes it so condensed that are filling up the place of the 4 amis between each shura, kila neinam. We're going to make those shuras as if that are in between, that are separating between the 2 shuras 4 amis, and there are other vines. We'll make as if it doesn't exist. That's what the Rabbanan said, and Reb Shimon said no. Kasha the Rabbanan, here you have a kasha the Rabbanan, because the Rabbanan said before, we don't make the middle ones as if it's not there by the mason, but by the vines, we say the shuris that are between the outer shuris, we make as if it doesn't exist. And Kasha the Reb Shimon said by the mason, you make it, when they're all condensed, you make those that are condensing the area as if it doesn't exist. And here Reb Shimon says, no, it's not considered as a vine if you have if it's so condensed. And we don't say it's as if the middle ones are not there. So you mother Reb Shimon like kasha. Reb Shimon is no kasha. Hosam over there, but negate to the Keren. Reb Shimon holds that you have to deal with the middle krumim, with the middle vines. Because a person didn't plant those middle vines where he condensed everything together for no reason on the condition to uproot it. For sure not. So he wants it to be there, so therefore it's considered as condensed. And we can't say it's as if it's not there. But to the Kfarim, Zimna the Misamalei, at times it can happen that it's Bein Hashmashis, Erev Shabbos, almost Shabbos, and since the time is so short, Mikri Umanchalei, happens that he places in a temporary fashion the mason over there, but it's on the condition to remove it, so it's therefore we consider it as if it's not there. The Rabbanan like kasha. Nami like kasha. The Rabbanan is no kasha. Hach ben agay to the Kfarim, keeping them in novel, since the mace through this that it's all buried, all the mace there together. It's a genai. It's a disgrace. That's how the Girsa goes according to Rabbeinu Geshem and the Yad Hameh and the Hashbam. So it looks like they had this guess. It's a disgrace. So therefore, it's not going to be considered. The Chacham hold that place won't be considered as a shunas kvaris. The Chachamim argue on Rabbi Shimon. They're concerned that maybe the mason, the extra mason there, that were added after on the first one, were buried kedin. So therefore, it's considered as so we say all the mason in this place were very, very condensed or squeezed together. Amanas to remove all of them after a time. Of course, this even of the kfura is a nivel mace. That's how he looks at it. Hasam meima amma, but there by the Baal HaKerem, he could say no. The middle ones that he placed, he'll see hey manayos the sharper. He says, whichever one of the Gefanim will grow and be fine, sharper, that's the one I'll keep. The low sharper, and those that won't, I'll uproot. Meaning, it should be used for wood. So he's not particular. He's just hoping, whatever comes out successful, that's the one he wants. And those that will not come out successful, he will use as wood. So therefore, he says it's kila einam. He says he can use, you can consider it as if it's not there. Hadn Allah hamecha peres. We shall return to you, Perek hamecha peres.